problem with it. Nice opinion. Just one tiny problem with it. Inspecting your post, it looks like your opinion is different from mine. Let me tell you something. I am the baseline for opinions. Any opinion I hold is objectively correct, and as a result, any other opinions are wrong. Guess what? You happen to hold a wrong one. I hope you know that your opinion is now illegal. I have contacted the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Navy SEALs, Secret Service, and your mom. You'll be sorry you ever shared your opinions. By the time you're reading this, you'll be done for. Nature will punish you. Humanity will punish you. Supernatural beings will punish you. Space will punish you. We decided just to make sure we'll nuke your house from orbit, so there's no chance you can run away. Everyone will know you will die. It's a small price to pay to remove your wrong opinion from this world.
Alrighty, welcome back to the live stream. If you're watching this in a rewatch, consider liking, stream, subscribing if you like the topics I discussed other previous ones, and comment your thoughts on the things I discussed in this stream. Without further ado, we will be talking about Johnny Somali. And before we actually react to the video, we'll actually discuss what actually happened. So first, court date. He did have a court date the other day, and that said, okay, so this was okay.
Sound to this one. They're different.
Right. Okay.
Also, Asian Dragon said, what's the difference between obstruction of business playing loud music? Monkey sound to this one. They're different buses. And remember, he can be charged for additional counts for every single different bus he was on. So they got him on this because it was a different bus on a different date. I told you guys, each specific instance can be a new count.
So, okay. So, yeah. Oh, Johnny Somali has pled guilty to 6 of the 8 charges. He's not guilty to distributing deepfakes, even though he distributed them. Yes, that actually happened. So what happened is, yeah, he pled guilty to 8 of them. I mean, 6 out of 8. Claimed he did distribute the deepfakes when he obviously did. And, that said, I think it's time to react to the video. So that said, I'm gonna do the Hank ones, obviously, because I did say since there's a little Hank update to talk about first. But other than that, here we go. Okay.
Johnny Somali, aka Ramzi Khalid Ismail, may be losing his top ally in Hank U. We're going to talk about it today in this fast facts version. This is the legal mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney who's been following the Ramzi Khalid Ismail case from beginning to end. And this is a kind of weird chapter that we now have where it seems like the Hank U saga, the Hank U story, is really going to come to an end. This is really the final chapter, it looks like, for Hank U. Now, of course, the Johnny Somali legal saga is not over. It won't be over for some time. But based on a recent interview with K-Town Social Club, it really appears that there is a separation happening here. A rift has happened, and it may be the end of really the relevance of Hank U. We're going to get on that today on this Fast Facts version. Of course, if you like the Fast Facts versions of my streams, make sure to like the video and let me know in the comments below. So, of course, I've got a great PowerPoint here for you guys today talking about this final chapter. And with this, in this final chapter with Hank, we had this interview that was conducted in person between a member of the K-Town Social Club, which had originally interviewed him, and, of course, Hank Hanjong Yu. Now, this is interesting because there were many questions that were asked or many things that came up. It was a very long interview. And I want you guys to, of course, check out the full-length version. If you're interested, it's in the comments below in the description. If you like the channel, if you like the way it was handled, which I must say was very professionally, very neutrally, I have a lot of respect for the interviewer because he was able to kind of sit through that with a straight face and kind of a calm demeanor and get through that. So I have a lot of respect for that on a professional level. So if you guys want to check that out, once again, description below. And of course, if you like it, you can subscribe to their channel. Now, this went down, I believe, a week or two ago and was just released a couple days ago. And everybody was sending this to me to comment on. Of course, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's almost 2 hours. But of that, only about 5 minutes of it is legally relevant or really relevant to the case at hand with Johnny Somali at all. Well, one important thing that happened, though, is that there were some questions that I submitted to the interviewer. He had asked me privately for some questions, and he didn't say they were my questions. He just asked them like they were regular questions. And when they were asked, they were answered very well, and I'm going to talk about the reactions there. But one thing I want to talk about is what is irrelevant, because this is something, and I've talked about kind of my coverage and how I'm trying to focus on what's relevant and legal and objective versus what is drama or what is kind of not really going to do anything for the legal case one way or another. So the majority of this interview is irrelevant legally. Now, it may be good cinema, it may be good TV, it may be good drama. That's perfectly fine. And if that's what you like, hey, go check out the full-length interview. There's a lot of stuff that you'll probably laugh at or enjoy or whatever else. But essentially, a lot of the stuff in there, like Hank's long history of mental health issues and diagnoses, his background, his interfamily relationships, debating over his combat prowess and how he is a skilled fighter, according to himself. His time in prison and the many stories from prison, which some of which have very graphic details. And once again, children should probably not watch this interview. It is very adult. And then last is personal history. We'll put quotes around that, and the details of his history, including some of his personal life and bedroom life, etc. That's all really irrelevant. And I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to harp on that. Hank tells his own story, and you can listen to it and take it with whatever grain of salt you want to take that. The only legal relevance that I see overall a lot of this having, other than the few questions that were asked, were that Hank admits much of the speculation about him. So he's asked a lot of questions that are speculative about his past, about his history, his family, and he pretty much confirms what people have been saying online. And that's very interesting because a lot of that stuff is only damaging to his reputation. Not that he had a sterling reputation or a clean reputation beforehand, but his reputation is certainly not improved by this interview. It is certainly only damaged by this interview insofar as he's confirmed things. And another thing that's going to bring up, because he brings up a defamation lawsuit at the end, or at least threatening a defamation lawsuit at the end, is by confessing a lot of these things, he's removed his ability to claim defamation, essentially saying, hey, no, these things that have been said are true. So they are thus not defamatory, particularly in jurisdictions like the United States, which the majority of the streamers that he talks about, the proper venue would be the United States, would be completely barring any sort of defamation claim for reporting what he said himself. So let's get into it. And I want to bring up a couple things. First of all, he does bring up his time and people knowing him as quote unquote the Asian Nazi, that sort of these meme photos he says he took. Here's one with the Kekistan flag, all that good stuff. You know, he's got some in the Confederate outfit.
Oh boy. Okay,
So he does say, and this is one thing I'm going to actually agree with Hank on here, is he says all of these photos, the stuff he was doing in Confederate cosplay, etc. He says he doesn't support the Confederates and that he would have supported war crimes against the Confederates, etc. But he says that all of this was to troll people online.
What does that even mean? War crimes against Confederates? I guess what they did. I guess.
Fine. And you know what? I actually believe him. I actually genuinely believe Hank was just trolling people online. But beyond that,
I mean, that does actually kind of track that he would troll people just for a reaction. Because a lot of people, do that. So, wouldn't be a shocking if that was the reason.
this information about him and his past and his cosplay and whatever else, it really isn't legally relevant. He was never charged with a crime for cosplaying or whatever else, or taking photos online. And largely trolling people online is usually, and I'm putting a little asterisk there, guys, usually, not always. Sometimes trolling goes too far, but usually trolling is not illegal. And usually trolling is free speech. And actually, as much as Hank may say I don't believe in free speech, I actually do believe in free speech insofar as if you are not breaking a crime, you can troll people online. And I don't care whether you're on the left or on the right or center, or if it's whatever it's about. It could be teasing different, people, whatever. That generally is legal. So this side of it really, if he says he's trolling and he wasn't convicted of a crime, okay, yeah, sure, Hank. Then it was trolling. And, people can take that the way they take that, and how they view you is their own opinion. And of course, many people have bad opinions. Many people don't care about us trolling, but that came up during the interview. The next thing and the next questions that were the questions that are relevant. And now there are several questions that were relevant there. And mainly I'm going to focus on the ones that I asked. So I asked questions related to his money and related to what if Johnny goes to prison. And he answered those questions. So related to the money, of course, and you can see the full response, the full video. If you want to check out my live stream, I play the video. We're going to go through it bit by bit in the live, but I'm just going to summarize it here for the fast facts version. So about money, he's asked, hey, how much money have you spent on Johnny? Like, how much have you spent on him at all? And he actually admitted to spending around or perhaps over $20,000 USD.
That is an insane amount on someone who is potentially actually going to go to jail, and like confirmed crime actually he did commit.
$20K USD between legal fees, housing, etc., paying for things for Johnny, etc. About $20K USD invested into Johnny Somali. That is a lot of money. In fact, for somebody who has not been working until recently, he does admit that he just got out of school and now he's tutoring, right, to make some money. But for someone who's not working, that's a lot of money. And certainly if that was coming from someone's family and now their family knows they were spending $20K, that is something that can make them very, very mad. That large investment into another person that wasn't going into Hank. Hank was
especially someone as notorious as Somali, who most Koreans don't like.
Pretty much fully underwriting that. So that's a lot of money. That's significant. And when I saw him answering these questions, in this manner, and you can kind of see this as a screenshot of when he was talking about the money, he actually seems hurt by this. And he seems to realize and be bright enough to know he is probably never getting that money back. He realizes he's probably never getting that money back. He says he did it on principle because it aligns with his values and beliefs. But on some level, I do believe Hank wants that money back. And he knows that Johnny,
I would want it back too,
really isn't going to have the capacity to get that money back. Beyond that, the second question was about prison. And what if Johnny goes to prison? Well, he actually admitted, which was huge, that Johnny may indeed go to prison, but he thinks it's for a couple months, not for years and years and years. Well, that's just kind of arguing over semantics. Even Hank Yu, even his top ally.
That's just an argument of how long it's going to be. But I think the consensus most people are going to arrive at is he is going to prison. It's just a question of how long is it going to be.
Is at this point resigned to the fact that Johnny Somali, Ramsey Khalid Ismail, is likely seeing time behind bars in Korea. And that's a big shift, because if you caught the earlier interviews, the earlier statements by Hank, remember, this is his top ally, you would say, and he describes himself as one of Johnny's best friends now. And if his best friend now is admitting to the fact that he will probably see some time in a Korean prison, that's a huge shift. That's a massive shift. That is huge. So I think that's a big one. The other big one is that he admitted that he indeed is now potentially not housing Johnny Somali. So he said Johnny is perhaps somewhere else. He admitted, yeah, Johnny's not with me anymore. He's somewhere else, but I'm not going to tell you where he is. Right. And it's mentioned a Goshiwon, which is a very small room, kind of a very tiny room in Korea. He's saying, mention, he might be in a Goshiwon, again. And that's what the host brings up. And he responds, yeah, that's probably where he is, kind of hinting at, yeah, that's probably what's going on. So, yeah, he's probably in some off-site area. I would believe that. But here's the legal relevance. The case is coming up in 1 week.
Okay. Also, to preface for a second, just pivot just for a second, just on this. But I shared earlier, 20 years of prison, it's the max is 12. So just put that out there.
If he indeed has moved, he needs to update his address. As far as we know, as of date, he has not updated his address with the court. So perhaps he forgot. Perhaps the lawyer hasn't gotten around to it. Perhaps he'll watch this Fast Facts and actually do that. But legally, he is required to update that. If he has not updated that and he has moved and he comes to court and lies,
That's not a good thing.
that's contempt of court. And that would be very severe for
That's
Somali
also
if he
another
is
crime,
misrepresenting where
technically.
he is staying and he's in fact staying somewhere else. That would be a big, big problem for Somali. So if Somali has actually moved physically and is no longer residing with Hank, that does need to be reported to the court. So that's a big deal. That's a huge thing. Beyond that, let's move into talking about defamation. Now, Hank, of course, brought me up at the end, and I was kind of thrown off. I'm like, whoa, you bring up legal mindset at the end. In talking about defamation and bring up defamation. So Hank confirms that he wants to sue for defamation. Now, he specifically mentions me, or rather the host brings me up. But the truth is, and I've actually seen some proof of this, that he wants to sue several people. He wants to sue Atozi, me, 15 Minutes, the Korean streamers. And well,
why?
Korean streamers are a little bit of a different case because they're in Korea and Korean law will clearly apply. They'll be more easy to serve, etc. For Atozi, myself, 50 Minutes, a lot of the other people have been covering this. He wants to sue Asmongold or whatever else, anybody who's covered this on the internet. It's going to be very, very difficult. We're going to talk about those challenges. But when he talked about defamation, and once again, I've got the full clip in my life, he admits his pure motivation is money. It's just money. It's not actually he feels bad about it. He laughs about it. He thinks it's a joke. He actually isn't deeply hurt about this at all. And he claims to believe in free speech, but he doesn't understand the concept. The concept of free speech is the ability to report on facts. And that's just the way it is. And just because he wants money doesn't mean you can sue somebody. Plenty of people want money. If you could just sue people whose money you want and get that money, well,
everyone would do it.
Well, then they would do it. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. So at the end of the day, he's going to have a hard time collecting from anybody, myself included. And I can say he's not going to get a single won, baht, or US dollar off of me. It's going to be very difficult for that. Now, expanding upon previous defenses, which I mentioned in other videos, there are other things that would cause a defamation lawsuit against myself, Atozi, anybody else to fail. The first is the impossibility or impracticability procedurally. So here's the thing. There's something called standing. That's the ability to bring a claim. He's going to have a real big issue in multiple jurisdictions with standing. It's very odd because he may not even have standing to bring a claim in the United States. He might be able to bring it by hiring an attorney in the particular jurisdiction where the defendants would reside, maybe, but maybe not, right? They could contest that and say, no, actually, you don't have standing to bring that. And in other jurisdictions, like other countries, he certainly might not even have standing at all. The only place he clearly can sue is South Korea. But let's just use myself as an example. While I used to live in South Korea, I no longer reside in South Korea. Therefore, suing in South Korea would be entirely inappropriate because, well, they wouldn't even be able to serve me with process because I'm not in South Korea. And even if you were,
and it wouldn't make sense to do such a thing,
able to get a Korean sued and somehow try to serve it abroad, etc., the venue would be improper. So they would just make a motion to change the venue, and they would lose that, and Hank would lose that, and it would all be done procedurally. The other thing is, most of the streamers, let's use Atozi in 15 Minutes, for example, they're in the United States. And we have something called anti-slap. Now, Hank claims to know about free speech, but I'm going to educate him on free speech as it's applied in law. The anti-slap, or laws against strategic lawsuits against public participation, that is, lawsuits just to shut people up, even though they're actually speaking facts, those are so intimately tied to free speech. They were adopted on free speech basis. You can't use lawsuits to shut people up from talking to you, from talking about you, particularly from talking about you about truthful things. And not only that, but Hank is a public figure. He's now gone on multiple interviews. He's got YouTube channels. He's involved with Johnny Somali. He is a public figure, so he is held to a higher standard under New York Times versus Sullivan. Therefore, all these anti-slap protections would essentially prevent him from even going to court. It wouldn't even get to a motion to dismiss. In a preliminary motion, it would be blown out of court in the United States. So that would be a very kind of funny way for it to go, and an entire waste of Hank's money. Although at this point, if he's wasted $20K in legal fees, I mean, what's another $20K, right? I mean, there you go. Beyond that, the things that have been reported on by everybody, myself included, have all been factual and confirmed by Hank. In fact, he confirmed them in this interview. And in American law, at least, the truth is a defense. And in other jurisdictions, even in Korea, there is a public reporting or a public interest exception. And clearly, the reporting under this would fall under public interest since it's related to Johnny Somali, since all of it has been adjacent to the criminal behavior of Johnny Somali. The other thing is you need to have damages. So to bring a claim in America or pretty much any jurisdiction, you're going to need damages. What money did he lose? He wasn't making any money. His family, mom, whatever, was giving him money regardless. So he didn't have anything that was lost because of that. And further, you actually have to have a good reputation, or at least a neutral reputation, in order to be damaged. But at this point, it's very clear. And
his reputation is not good at all.
Speaking to people in Korea, Korean lawyers, if you have a bad reputation, there's no reputation to be damaged. Even in Korea, that would be thrown out because of his own reputation. And at the end of the day, nobody, myself included, Atozi, anybody else, has been served with a lawsuit by Hank. So there's no lawsuit in existence. And because of that, I just don't see this going anywhere or see anything. That's why I think this is indeed the final chapter for Hank. Now, what's my conclusion on him as we wrap up the saga? Well, the conclusion is that to date, to our knowledge, the Somali conviction team, the rest of us, Hank has not been indicted of a crime in Korea. We don't know of him being indicted of anything. We would probably know by now. And he hasn't been. And Hank appears to be trying to separate from Somali and planning an exit. In the interview, he talks about going to China to study mechanical engineering in July of 2026. Now, I would note that based on his U.S. felony, China might give him some trouble with his visa because China tends not to like felonies on their visa application. So that might be a little difficult. But perhaps he pulls some strings or whatever, greases the wheels or whatever else and gets in. But that might be an issue. The other thing is that Ramsey owes Hank over $20K USD, which is probably causing a rift between the two. And I'm not one to sit here and get in between these two people as they separate and try to put them back together. I mean, I think that is a significant concern. I think a real friend would pay another friend back. I think if they were owed money, they would pay it back.
A good friend would, not just someone who's just probably using him for money only, because that's probably the only reason they were friends to begin with, was Johnny viewed him as a money bag.
And I think that might be seen because Ramsey has allegedly moved out. He's saying he's moved out, and Hank sounds like he's moving on. It sounds like these two might be a little bit over. Like it might be starting to break up. There might be a rift in the family. So going forward on my channel, on this channel,
aspect of it.
Unless Hank is criminally indicted in Korea or anywhere else, or he serves as an official witness, to me, he's irrelevant legally. And therefore, going forward from today on, I'm really not going to report on Hank except for as it relates to the lawsuit. I think it's a distraction. I think it's mostly drama. And once again, on my channel, I'm trying to be objective, focusing on the law and not just in on the side stuff. But I want to know what you guys think below. What do you think about the Hank saga? What do you think he contributed to the Somali story? I'll catch you on the next one.
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?
So he's not really relevant anymore. So, okay. Yeah, he owes him $20,000, which we kind of went into on that one. We're going to go into the actual... Yeah, there's that. Let's go with this one first. Then we'll go to the previous one before. All right.
Khalid Ismail, aka Johnny Somali, had a disastrous day in court today. We're pretty much,
I mean, when does he not have a disastrous day in court, to be honest?
Everything that could go wrong went wrong. There were some surprises, some twists, and we had some updates after my coverage to bring you today. Some extra information, some extra, a little extra spice to make it even worse. And of course, we're going to cover this all on the Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney who's been covering the Somali Ramsey Khalid Ismail saga the criminal saga in Korea from beginning to end. And boy, we were waiting for this trial day for months, and it did not disappoint. This was the most crazy, dramatic day to date, and also the longest to date, at clocking in at a little over 25, 26 minutes, which compared to last hearings, which only lasted, 10, 5, 15 minutes, was actually a lot. And there were a ton of legal mistakes, blunders, admissions, confessions, things that absolutely turned this case against Ramsey Khalid Ismail and make it look really, really bad. Of course, this is the fast facts version, getting you the quick and dirty version. If you guys like this, please let me know in the comments below, and make sure you leave a comment and like the video. All right, so let's get into the PowerPoint, because of course I have one. This is the recap of the trial today, August 13th, 2025. Now, pre-trial, this is in Seoul, South Korea, same courtroom, same place. It was a rainy day. The courtroom was packed. This Korean media was there. The Somali conviction team was there. Hank was there. There was also a kick streamer there to watch it as well. Of course, nobody allowed to do video or audio from the courtroom. However, we did give you live play-by-plays because there are ways to do that. Ramsey Somali was late by a few minutes.
I mean, better than a few hours.
When Ramsey's lawyer went to find him, so Hank went out to find him, Ramsey's lawyer went out to find him.
Oh,
Eventually,
great.
they did find him. When he came in, he was dressed in a suit. He had a nice buzz cut. You're going to see photos of him later, but he looked gaunt. He looked thin. He had deep circles around his eyes. It was described that his deep circles had circles. He also was resigned. He did not make faces. He didn't look around at the crowd. He didn't stick out his tongue like he did in previous engagements, previous court dates. So he had a huge attitude shift going forward into this date. There was also a new interpreter sworn in. Last time there were interpreting issues, we had a new one, and the reviews from everybody, including people who spoke Korean and were doing translating for the Somali conviction team, was this translator was excellent. Not just good, excellent, perfect, 10 out of 10. Great interpreter, which was amazing. So let's talk about, first of all, the first thing that came up was, did Hank lie? Now, Hank, in an interview recently with K-Town Social Club, said that Ramsey is no longer living with him, and Ramsey gave Hank's address in court. So either Hank was lying on the interview, or it's contempt of court. It's contempt of court. That's an additional crime that he's committing there. Or Hank is lying. I'm not going to say which way it is. You guys can kind of make up your mind. Most people seem to think it's probably a lie to throw them off the trail, but who knows? We don't really know. Hank also appeared to be distancing himself from Somali in a recent interview, but he sat in the front row. He went to find Ramsey, and he escorted him home with the lawyer in a cab. So he essentially was right there winging him the entire time. And right now we're going to get into the next part, which was a disaster, which was Ramsey's lawyer. Now, this is not to say he's incompetent or there's anything in terms of skill. Once again, as a lawyer, even if you're an amazing lawyer, you can be handed a bad case. The other thing that's going on here is if the client tells you to argue something, you kind of have to argue it, even if you don't want to. So if the client says, hey, I want to plead not guilty, but you don't really have any evidence, you don't have any backup, the argument really doesn't work, well, you have to go with that. And even a really good lawyer, even an amazing lawyer, can kind of be put in a bad place. And I kind of feel bad for Ramsey's attorney, because it's very clear that Johnny and his, fools on Discord, etc., are feeding these arguments in that just do not work in court. They're not Korean lawyers. They don't know Korean law. Johnny's not a Korean lawyer, but he's trying to force these arguments that just don't work in the Korean system. And it led to a lot of losses today, loss after loss after loss. There was not a single
every year. That's the only goal that you have, is winning the
win, even procedurally, even small victories for the Somali team. So let's talk about that. So right off the bat, the first thing in the hearing was the judge asked Ramsey's lawyer for any specific evidence.
Yeah, you kind of, when you're, you kind of have to argue for them, even if you don't agree with it.
On the crimes Ramsey pled not guilty to. So specifically the deepfakes. We're talking about the deepfakes for which he pled not guilty. So the judge says, hey, what evidence do you have? And the lawyer was completely flustered by this. He could not answer. He said, hey, we submitted that to the court, so, you should have that, right? But he couldn't, when pressed, give any of the information, any defense at all. He couldn't remember any specifics. That's not good. Now, what may have happened here is Johnny may have had this packet of information, perhaps the dossier prepared by his Discord, which was submitted to the judge or submitted to the court. However, didn't really memorize that, didn't really go through it. Maybe he's busy, maybe he didn't have time, maybe he didn't understand it. Who knows? We don't know what's going on, but that was a very bad look and did not look good in court. Beyond that, Ramsey's lawyer tried to complain about late notice and procedure, and he tried to kind of make it sound like the prosecution was doing something bad or untoward or unofficial or breaking the rules. And now the prosecutor, and I have been in this courtroom, I've seen the prosecutor. The prosecutor looks like a very nice, mild-mannered, calm guy. I watched him an entire day in court cases. I sat in another day and watched like 6, 7 trials. This guy never was aggressive. He never got angry, was very calm and collected, very professional. But all the reports from the courtroom today, and I went over several after the stream, I asked several sources, I said, hey, was this what happened? And they said, yes. He aggressively countered Ramsey's lawyer in a way in which is not typical for a prosecutor to normally do. Pretty much, Ramsey's lawyer was saying, hey, you're doing something wrong. And the prosecutor got up and said, oh, hell no. And excuse my language, or I'll put some in the swear jar, but said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. All notice we gave was proper. Everything was legal. We followed the procedure. And the judge quickly stepped in and took the side of the prosecutor.
Hello, Basket City. Hope you're doing well.
Prosecutor, not Ramsey's lawyer, overruled Ramsey's lawyer and said verbatim, this is not an issue, move on. So absolute procedural L, massive procedural L for Ramsey's lawyer. Going beyond that, there was the new charge, the charge of the additional obstruction. That's once again, the fourth obstruction charge that was coming up. It was revealed that this new charge, was for conduct on 2 Seoul buses on September 27, 2024. Now, this was they stated stuff like playing loud music in TTS and playing North Korean propaganda.
Yeah, the North Korean propaganda one's pretty bad because it's literally the anti-terrorism or whatever the law is that's literally against, well, that.
Now, mind you, he is not charged under the terrorism statute, under the terrorism
Oh, so I was right. But he's not charged under it.
law. He's still charged under obstruction of business. So it doesn't change the nature and make him guilty of terrorism. However, it does conclude that they were factoring in the fact that he was playing North Korean propaganda. They know, and they were listening to that. It says that disturbed the passengers, it disrupted operations, and ultimately for a obstruction of business, if you disturb normal operations of business, you are guilty. So therefore, Ramsey knew he was dead to rights on this and pled guilty to this new obstruction charge. So once again, another guilty on the bucket. Now we're going to talk about the other things that he pled guilty to. So previously, Ramsey had pled not guilty to the Lotte World charge that is going into Lotte World.
Which he did. I mean, he did do those things.
World, causing a scene, disrupting the ride, causing the ride to close. So we had a huge surprise today. We thought the witness for today was going to be Bong Bong. Everybody thought that, myself included. And you know what? I was wrong. Look at that. I'm admitting I was wrong here. It was actually the witness that was a staff woman from Lotte World who repeatedly told Ramsey not to film. She was actually quite disturbed by the fact that he would not stop filming. And you could see that in the video, in the original video. I've reviewed that video.
Which I also reviewed that one as well.
I'm not going to show her because I don't want to put her face out there and make it, put any pressure on her or anything else. But you can see in her face that she was not happy about it. And she showed up. And Ramsey changed his plea to guilty on the Lotte World charge. He may have been gambling that the Lotte World witness would no-show and saying, okay, if the witness no-shows, then okay, we can go with not guilty because she's going to no-show and not be there. However, she showed up and was.
Hi, I'm Ethan, an animator at Digixar, and I'm here to give you a little insight into our next game, Tides of Tomorrow.
Don't care.
Highly motivated to be there.
Also don't gamble on things, especially people not showing up, because clearly she actually did.
So big shout out to Lotte World. Big shout out for filing this charge. This is one that a lot of members of the SC team, my team, worked really, really hard to see if we can get pressed, to see if we can get in there. And big shout out to the people that helped out, especially people like Bang TV and the others in Korea that really helped press this charge. So because he changed his plea from guilty to not guilty, he now has 6 confirmed guilty charges. 4 obstruction of business and 2 minor crimes act. So he is a confirmed repeat offender, repeat criminal with all of these. And once again, each charge stacks up the amount of time he can be in jail. At this point, the maximum is 12 years. However, even the default, even the standard punishment would be over 4 years in jail. Even if they don't give him the aggravated maximum of 12 years, the standard, the non-aggravated, is 4 years and some change in terms.
So basically, if he goes to jail, which probably he most likely will, he's going to be facing more than 4 years in that prison, basically. So maybe 5, maybe 7, maybe 10, who knows?
A month. So even not counting the deepfakes, this is very, very serious. Now, one important thing is Ramsey's lawyer seems to think obstruction and all this is a joke. He actually was scoffing and laughing, etc., when they were talking about obstruction, like, oh, it's not a big deal. This is a big deal, and people have gone to jail for years in Korea for this. Absolutely. So now we have it here, like we said, 4 guilty for the obstruction of business, guilty on the Minor Crimes Act, and not guilty on the deepfake. These are his pleas. Of course, he's going to have to fight this at the next trial, and I do believe there's sufficient evidence to find him guilty on the deepfake counts. We're going to talk about that.
I think he eventually will probably plead guilty on those 2 eventually. There's going to be proof or something.
Next. But now we know the 4th count is for the bus North Korean propaganda, the loud music. So we know what's going on here. So he's kind of got 2 obstructions for the bus, one for Lotte World and one for 7-Eleven. This is not just about a cup of noodles, folks. This is much more than a cup of noodles. Going on, let's talk about the
I mean, it started as a cup of noodles, but then it got worse and worse and worse.
deepfakes. And a deepfake is the crime that Johnny Somali fears the most. He's scared to death because this is one that absolutely carries prison time right off the bat. The statute will not allow for fines. It's straight to prison, no other option. Now, the deepfake was,
And that's why he's pleading not guilty the most on that one, because he knows prison time, and that's highly illegal in South Korea.
a disaster for Johnny's defense. They pretty much confessed. Let's talk about this. So Ramsey's lawyer argued that Ramsey doesn't know how to make a deepfake, that he is incompetent to make a deepfake, which, look, we all know that's BS. It takes 2 seconds to make a deepfake. There's AI, there's other mechanisms. Anybody can make a deepfake, and Ramsey is certainly capable of it. But beyond that, that's what the lawyer said makes him innocent. The lawyer said he
Putting the stupidity plea is not the best defense, I will be honest, especially considering who he is. It's like, clearly he's intelligent, so, I mean, somewhat, not completely competent enough to know how to make it, something like that.
He didn't make it. So because he didn't make it, he's innocent. But the prosecutor immediately countered, once again, getting up there, getting in their face. Great job by the prosecution. Amazing performance. Said, so you deny making the deepfake, but you admit, you confess to distributing, which is publishing the deepfake. Ramsey's lawyer said, well, he was drunk. He admits distribution, but denies production. So saying he confesses that he distributed, but denies production. First of all, there is no I was drunk defense in the statute. Being drunk or high or whatever.
That's not a good, that's not a good defense either.
Ever is not a defense. It's did you do it or not? There's no state of mind involved here. So being drunk is not at all going to mitigate this or make this better or make him not guilty. That is not going to work at all. But the bombshell admission is the admission of guilt as to production. It's not relevant. The only thing that's relevant is that Ramsey distributed or published it, meaning whether or not Ramsey made it is irrelevant. And just to prove that, let's look at the statute here. Now, I know this language is small. This is the full statute. I want you guys to know he's really going to be hit under number 3 or number 4 here, but you have to read number 2 because number 3 here under the distribution of false video products, the deepfake law, Article 14.2, Article 3 here says a person who commits a crime under paragraph 2 by means and information of communication networks against the will of the subject, Bong Bong and Jungman, and making profits, he was streaming and making money, shall be punished by imprisonment with labor for not more than 7 years. It also says somebody who habitually commits this can have it aggravated. So that's a big one as well. So he's going to be charged under 3 or 4 here. But this one, he obviously made profit. And we got to read paragraph 2 to find out, okay, what does it describe the crime as? Well, what's the crime? Does it say a person who makes a deep fake? No, it actually doesn't say that, although it does have in another statute in number 1, a person who edits it, synthesizes, or process. But number 2, it says a person who has published. The only thing that's important to the crime is that he put it on screen. And because he has now confessed, he put it on screen in the eyes of the judge and the prosecutor, it's done. It's a shut case. It's over, baby. He's just admitted to it. Now he's entitled to his right to fight back. He can question the witnesses. And we're going to talk about the witnesses in a second, because that was a whole other loss for Somali. But at this point, we have him dead to rights on this crime, which is what I predicted. And I've been saying for the past almost year when I've been talking about the deepfake crime, saying, hey, look, it doesn't matter what his excuses are. It doesn't matter who Bong Bong is or Youngman is or whether they're bad people. Youngman, one of the streamers who is the cause for one of the deepfakes, is in jail right now. So clearly he's done some bad things. But that doesn't matter. All that matters is Johnny published a deepfake of Youngman and Johnny published a deepfake of Bong Bong. That's it. That's all. So let's continue here.
When you have a vendor and a partner that operates with excellence, is really critical to how we grow.
There was a huge loss, once again, another disaster regarding the witnesses. So Ramsey's lawyer was fighting tooth and nail not to allow the deepfake witnesses. He did not want those deepfake witnesses to come in. That would have been disastrous for him in his mind. Well, the prosecution argued that since Ramsey admits distribution but denies production, the witnesses have to be allowed. They must be allowed for arguing back about the production. The judge sided immediately with the prosecution and allowed the witnesses. Said, no. If you're still fighting this, if you're still pleading not guilty, we're going to allow the witnesses. Now, Ramsey's lawyer went beyond that. So once again, another overrule trying to get rid of him. Now Ramsey's lawyer said, okay, I want extended cross-examination. Instead of the standard 15-minute cross-examination of each witness, I want 25 minutes. The judge denied Ramsey's request. Guys, this is massive. In Korean procedure, in discussing this with lawyers and people experienced with the process, this almost never happens. Typically, if they request this, they give it. This is the judge telling Ramsey to cope and seethe. It's saying, we don't think your defense has enough. It's not worth it to give you 25 minutes. It's not going to prove anything. So all that dossier, all that other stuff, whatever else you think is relevant, that's really not worth 25. You've got 15 minutes for each witness, 15 minutes for Bong Bong, 15 minutes for Youngman, so 30 minutes total. It'll probably go, about an hour maybe-ish next trial. And that's all you've got. Ramsey's lawyer just has 15 minutes, and we'll see what he does with those 15 minutes. It probably is going to be pretty crazy. So we had a little action outside the court. Here's Ramsey leaving the court with his buzz cut, his new buzz cut, the suit. You see him there with Hank there. Definitely a different look today. So Ramsey quickly left with Hank and his lawyer. They did not interact with media or streamers. They avoided a kick streamer, Paul Risen, who attempted to interview them. And the streamer appeared to be anti-Somali generally, so maybe Somali knew that. But what I'm saying is he wasn't interacting. In the past, he was cursing at people. He was taking interviews. He was saying stuff. And he was smiling.
Which we, had one where he ran away from a little Korean woman asking him. So it's a bit different.
Smirking. Now he quickly ran to get in the cab. He wants nothing to do with the media. It reflects that I think he realizes this is serious and he's about to find out. He realized this was absolutely a massive loss for him today. Then other news is the next trial is October 29th, same courthouse, 2 p.m. So right before Halloween, we're going to have a spooky surprise for Somali.
Spooky court day.
And the deepfake witnesses will be called next time, Bong Bong and Youngman. So they will be called to testify on October 29th. So we thought they were going to come today. Bong Bong was going to come today. It's no. So Bong Bong and Youngman will be coming at the next trial. So that should be something to look forward to. Will be absolutely insane to see what Ramsey's lawyer tries to question them. I want to know what you guys think about this. How percentage cooked is Ramsey? And I'll catch you on the next one.
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?
Yeah, and before we do this one, just just before we do that, my opinion is 100% cooked. Very bad.
Injured? Tell them you mean business. Call James Scott Farron.
I'm TV's Judge Greg Mathis.
Trial of Johnny Somali, aka Ramzi Khalid Ismail, is tomorrow, Wednesday, the 13th, in Seoul, South Korea, and it is going to be wild. This is going to be the craziest day, the most unpredictable day of the entire trial series, which has really been going on for a half a year now, with the criminal saga stretching back into really October, November of last year. So we're gearing up for that. So today's episode, we're going to preview you in this Fast Facts version with the important things you need to know for trial tomorrow and what we think is going to be wild and unpredictable, and the questions we have for that trial tomorrow as we watch on my channel the play-by-play. My channel will be the only place that is giving live updates from the courtroom, giving you a play-by-play of what is happening and going down in the courtroom tomorrow at about 1:30. We're going to start 1:15, 1:30 Bangkok time. In Korea, that's going to start probably about, what is that, about 3:30, almost 4. So about that time tomorrow. So make sure you check that out on my channel and watch the live. Now, let's get into what's going with the pre-trial update. So, of course, we've got a nice PowerPoint for you here. So what's going to happen? Tomorrow, the trial is at 4 p.m. Korea time in the Western District Courthouse of Seoul. Now, I know for many of you, that's the middle of the night. If you're in the United States, if you're in, North America, South America, that may be really, really late at night for you. However, that's the time that fit best with the schedule of the court and also fit best with the witness. So we'll see what goes on there. Now, we have no idea how long this trial will go. It could go for 30 minutes. It could go for an hour, 2 hours. We have absolutely no idea. It will go until it's done. Now, we have a total of 8 criminal counts against Ramzi. We have no idea if more will be added in the future. As of date, that's what we have, 8. There could be more that are added in the future. There could be a separate case open for him for anything new. We don't know as of yet. Now, this is really going to come to a head at trial on August 13th. So tomorrow, everything is going to kind of come to a head. Now, we have a new indictment we're going to deal with. So the new criminal charge, the new obstruction of business charge. That's the 4th charge. We're going to go through those in a second. And we're also going to have the witness testimony of Bong Bong, which has been confirmed as the witness that is going to be coming into trial tomorrow. She's been traveling the world. She finally ended up back in Seoul. That's not a coincidence. She hired a lawyer for this. So she is being prepared for this role tomorrow as a witness. And this is going to be the most dramatic court date, absolutely, without a doubt. So here's in case you need a refresher, because some of you may be new, some of you may have not been following it all the way through. Here are the current charges we have against Johnny Somali. We have 4 counts of obstruction of business, 2 counts of offending the Minor Offenses Act, and 2 deepfake counts. He has pled guilty to 2 of the obstruction counts and 2 of the Minor Offenses Act. He has pled not guilty to 1 of the obstruction and 2 of the deepfakes. We do not know.
Which now we know that these 2 are both guilty.
We'll figure out tomorrow how he pleads on the new obstruction and also who filed it. There's a lot of speculation that this was also Lotte World, or it was another bus incident or whatever. We don't know. We're going to figure that out. In the court tomorrow on my stream. We're going to figure that live together. So we're all going to get that information together live. Also, how he pleads this. Is he going to fight this out not guilty? Remember, anything he pleads not guilty to here, let's say he pleads not guilty to this, the 3rd obstruction count and 4th will have to be fought in September. So he's going to have to come back in September regardless. This is not going to be over this month. There's going to be other court dates. But if he pleads not guilty, that may just extend it out. It may go even longer. This case may stretch out even longer than we would expect. Currently, we do have a prediction after speaking with various folks on the SCT. We have a general prediction on when the sentencing day may be, if it goes how it goes. But right now, this is what we're looking at. Not guilty on 1 obstruction and 2 defects, and guilty on the others. I would expect he might plead not guilty on this, but we will see, because he's already pled not guilty to 1, so why not try another? We will see what he does with that one. Now, What is he facing? What is he looking at? We've talked about the sentencing chart. Look at the bottom here. This is just the calculations we did based on the Korean sentencing guidelines. But he's facing anywhere from, at minimum 9 months, which we think is highly unlikely. But of course, it
Very unlikely.
could happen, all the way up to 12 years as the aggravated maximum. So anywhere from 9 months to 12 years, a significant period of time. Of course, the judge does have discretion. The judge could decide to sentence him lightly, to sentence him under the guidelines. But this is what the guidelines would dictate if he is found guilty of all crimes, which is currently what we expect. We currently expect, even if he pleads not guilty here, that ultimately he'll be found guilty. So based on that, this is the prediction. Now, of course, if he's found not guilty on any counts, which would be very rare because Korean courts do not like split decisions, then we would obviously have to revise this chart, right? Obviously have to revise that down. So what's the new information we have? What do I have to
What he's been found guilty on 6.
tell you guys before tomorrow? Well, we have a new interpreter for Ramsey, and this is really good news. So while the old interpreter was really good at translating English to Korean, they were not that great at translating Korean to English. And this led to a significant problem last time with the date of the next trial, as well as the plea, whether he pled guilty or not guilty on the obstruction charge. And because of that, and because literally half of Korean media, that is Korean media that speaks Korean, did not actually understand it, we on the SCT had varying reports from different people about what he pled. Because of that, they may have issued a new interpreter, said, hey, we're going to get somebody who's going to be able to do this with a little higher level of competence. So that interpreter is there. Once again, they just interpret. They're not a lawyer.
Well, that's good.
All they're supposed to do is translate from the judge to Ramsey and Ramsey to the judge. And mind you, Ramsey will not have much to say other than he is going to have to update his address. And we talked about this when talking about the Hank episode where Hank had said he's not living with me anymore. He hinted at that. He's got to update it. If he doesn't update it with the court, he's either lying, which is contempt of court, or ultimately all of that was a ruse and he's still with Hank all along. So we'll see what happens there. There's also the petition for severe punishment. Now we have confirmed that both the petition for severe punishment, which was filed a while ago, we talked about that on the channel, which is pretty much a petition for maximum punishment, saying give this guy the max. And also the first deepfake, we confirmed that those are Jungman, the Korean streamer. He's the one who both filed the petition and the deepfake charge. So he's going to be also kind of subject to this, and there's going to be information that's coming in from him on that related to deepfake number 1, as well as this petition. Now, we're not going to get into the details of that on this court date. We don't think this particular court date, but it's good that we've confirmed that information through our contacts, the SCT's contacts in Korea. Bong Bong has hired a lawyer to represent her as a victim. So we think she's highly invested and won't no-show. I think one of the big things for the Somali team was they were hoping that Bong Bong would no-show, that she'd disappear, she'd run away. But she's hired a lawyer. She's been traveling around the world, and all of a sudden she's streaming again in Hongdae. She's back in Seoul.
Yeah, so no-show didn't work out, it seems.
All signs point to the fact that Bong Bong will indeed show up tomorrow. She's not going to run away. She's going to be there.
Obviously, that's not the case, since she didn't show. It was a different witness than Bong Bong, which was the assumption. I think she'll be there for probably the next.
So she's highly invested as a witness and not going to no-show. We do have questions though, and these are very, very important questions. These are perhaps what makes tomorrow the most dramatic day. We have no idea how Bong Bong will do as a witness. Hopefully she comes in dressed, dressed respectfully, etc., with the court. And hopefully she stays calm under fire. But we don't know whether she will answer questions well or not. Like, I have no clue. We really don't know how that will go. We also, and this is a massive one, don't know how Ramsey's lawyer will question Bong Bong. So one of the things that happened is Somali's people, the quote-unquote SIA, or as we call them, the Somali Stupidity Agency, those guys actually came up with this dossier, this big packet of information and questions to give to Ramsey's lawyer to question Bong Bong. What we don't know is, which of these questions do they ask and not ask? Now, some of these questions they may bring up. Some of these questions they may not. Stuff like, do they push her about, her streaming activities, or about laughing, or about other stuff? We don't know which questions they're going to ask or not. Ramsey's lawyer could cross-examine Bong Bong for 2 minutes or 1 minute, or could cross-examine her for 2 hours. That's what's going to be wild to know. So we could have a very long day if Ramsey's lawyer decides to really go in on Bong Bong, really go in on her past. We don't know that. And obviously there are pros and cons to that. If you go in on a person who is perceived as a victim, that is usually not taken well, right? If you usually go hard on somebody who is a victim and you're essentially bullying them on the stand, that may not be perceived well by the judge. That may not go down very well. It also may not look good for Ramsey because the answers that Bong Bong gives, they ultimately make Ramsey look bad. So we really don't know about that. And that's really the wildest thing that we're going to see tomorrow is the Bong Bong testimony. We also don't know who filed the new obstruction charge. Which is that? Is it Lotte World again? Is it a bus? Is it a subway? Is it somewhere else? We don't know. We're going to figure that out tomorrow. And I'm very excited for that, as well as figuring out how does Ramsey plead for the new charge.
One prompt, build 10 slides with AI. Create a presentation deck on tariff war. GenSpark automatically researches credible sources, structures the outline, and auto-designs ready to present slides.
Legacy is everything. It's heart or family.
Can't do this no more.
When it comes to this county, I am the king, Brian.
Did somebody say King's Hawaiian? My kids go bonkers for the pretzel bite.
King's Hawaiian, there's nothing like it.
I tend to believe he might plead not guilty because he's already got to argue one, but so he might go not guilty. However, I will say this is a big moment for Ramsey. Today, or rather tomorrow, when it comes up tomorrow, is probably the last chance Ramsey has to just say, I plead guilty to everything. I'm so sorry. I throw myself at the mercy of the court. If he's going to do that, this is the day for him to do that.
Well, she didn't, since he pled guilty to major, but still pled not guilty for the deepfake. So he's clearly not obviously, he was never really sorry. We all know this.
If he fails to do that tomorrow, he's pretty much going to have to fight all the way through. It's pretty much going to be what happens in September or October, etc. And it's not going to look good for him because they've got the evidence. They can prove it. And once again, the conviction rate in Korean courts is over 95%.
Pretty
and
bad.
Some of the top prosecutors have worked on his case, building up the case file. So they've got ample evidence. These crimes are very straightforward and they don't go into intent. One of the big things that Somali is banking on and what his whole, strategy has been is, oh, well, I didn't intend it this way, or it's just a prank, bro. But none of these crimes turn on intent. It doesn't matter whether you intended to or not. Did you disrupt the business? Yes, it's obstruction of business. Did you publish the deepfake, put it out there, show it on your stream? Yes, you're guilty. It doesn't matter what you intended. It doesn't matter if you intended it as a joke or whatever. That's all irrelevant. It doesn't matter if she did something bad too. Even if Bong Bong was a bad person, which I'm not saying she is, but even if she is, that doesn't make you innocent. And that's been a core of their defense, which is just simply not going to work. And they're going to see that. They're going to very much see that as the process goes on. So Ramsey has a chance to throw himself at the mercy of the court. And you know what? It could happen. We don't know. It could be a 360. We haven't really heard from Ramsey. So he could emerge from this cocoon and, try to be a different person. We don't know that yet. So we have to see that. We also don't know who shows up in the courtroom. I do imagine it'll be packed. Last time it was packed. I imagine it'll be packed again. We don't know who's going to be there, who's not going to be there. So we will see tomorrow who is indeed in that courtroom. The last thing, and going past this beautiful picture of Ramsey, is we do have some predictions. The next hearing will likely address any of the other not guilty pleas, the obstructions, and closing arguments.
Which they're going to, considering there's only 2 left.
Unless new charges are added. And at this point, we do not have any information about new charges that are coming in imminently, meaning coming in within the next month. There may be other stuff that comes in down the line, particularly if he's sentenced. There may be something that comes in while he's sentenced. That's possible. However, we don't know anything that's going to come down the line just now. Whether there's another obstruction charge or Minor Crimes Act, etc., we have no idea about that. And the next time he comes out is really going to be his chance to speak. So he, at the next hearing, assuming everything goes as normal, in September, which likely the next hearing will be in September, that's going to be Ramsey's chance to speak, his chance to open his mouth, give his side of the story, tell what he's going to tell. So he's got, less than 30 days or, 31, 32 days to figure out what his story is going to be, what his side is going to be. Is he going to be apologetic at all? Is he just going to just say, I didn't do anything, it's a prank? Is he going to say, F you to the court? We have no idea what he's going to do. He's really an unpredictable element at this point. And beyond that, if the next hearing, if there's nothing else added, there could be as little as 2 or 3 weeks until sentencing. So we could see a hearing in September, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, we could have sentencing, and this trial could be over in October. It is possible that the trial could be completely over and concluded in October, and we could see an end to the Ramsey Khalid Ismail saga. I want to know what you guys think about that. Would you be sad if it ends in October? Do you want it to go longer? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?
All right, that said, it's good. It'd be bittersweet, but I think it's gonna be good to know that, because one judge said this cannot be a slap on the wrist. This has to be relevant. This cannot happen, it's never gonna happen again. So when he eventually is put in jail, to me it'll be like, hey, it's been 2 years or something like that. But finally, justice is hailed. So yeah. And again, just say, the max is 12, not 20 is not correct. So that said, that's the end of the stream. Like the stream, consider subscribing if you like me talking about Johnny, any other Korean related stuff. Comment your thoughts if you're on the watch, your thoughts on the topics. Until next time, bye.
Welcome to the Blizzard Arena.
And the quest for a champion begins today.
The anticipation has been building, and it is finally time. We are live.
Are you ready?
Is it really?
Can you get over the roof there?
Oh my.
Oh my, what a play, what a grab!
Another jump here on the high ground. Super goes forward, but gets stunned off. The EMP comes in, and ding, he rains down hell from above.
Here comes Pine. Gets one, gets two. Looking for a bit more, gets another one.
Tuno down again. That heralds disaster generally for the Fusion, and Carpe wasn't far behind. Prophet, he's killed 4 players now on his own.
From Vancouver, locks him in the sound barrier. Sound is the bomb coming from Jono. Oh my God, he does it again.
Flutter now moving onto the Widowmaker, taking the clutch into his own hands. The headshot, and the headshot, and the headshot.
Okay, I like this for the Gladiators. We're going to try and circle around. I'm going to call this the merry-go-round because it makes me laugh. Makes me happy, and Sean Paul switches to the Widowmaker at just the right time.
Oh, the Graven!
Tracy into one.
You could have told me that you spoke English, honestly.
The fans never thought they'd see this day. It took 43 matches. Feels like a really emotional moment here.
Sorry.
Alrighty, see ya.